It began with the forging of the great franchises. 3 movies were given to the nerds, 4 Eyes, Poindexters who always had their nose hidden in books, 7 to the nerds, prone to asthma, lovers of Hot Pockets and receivers of wedgies, and 9 were gifted to the dweebs who above all else used way too much Axe body spray. For within these movies was bound the endless debate, what series is the greatest of them all? But they were all of them deceived, for another trilogy was made. In the darkness of a basement, in a sugar high of Mountain Dew, the Dark Lord Jackson forged a secret master trilogy to control them all. And into these movies he poured the genius of Tolkien, the concentrated essence of nerds, and a double dose of homoerotic hiking. One trilogy to rule them all. Before I roast the hobbits for dinner, please check out my Subscribe page. For as little as $1 a month, you can help feed my screaming goat.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
Or you can support me by buying a t-shirt from my Teespring store and instantly stop looking like a disheveled bridge troll. If you can't, then hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and share my video on social media. It really helps my channel.
Every little bit helps.
Now let's hunt some hobbits. Now begins Hiking the Movie, complete with marsh walking, forest walking, mountain walking, highland walking, bog walking, road walking, foothills walking, volcano walking, and yes, even the classic, walking. The movie opens in the Shire, where a senile old man begins his descent into madness and laughs at his own jokes like a psychopath. The Shire is some holy sanctuary where toothless cornhuskers and jockeys brag about the truck nuts they put on their lifted wagons.
Got a little pretty mouth, ain't he?
We are introduced to Frodo, an unhinged sociopath that enjoys playing mind games to lead on other hobbits, and Gandalf, a semi-conscious wizard with a crippling opium addiction. Well, Gandalf the Klutz is itching for another fix, so he pays his dealer a visit to stock up for a long journey. But first, they get blasted and watch fireworks. Well, it seems like old age has caught up to Bilbo because he can't handle his shit anymore. When he starts tripping balls, he spirals into a state of paranoia and believes the feds are after him, which prompts him to pull a disappearing act. When Gandalf the Neckbeard is unable to pull Bilbo back from a psychotic break, the old hobbit begins to believe his old operation is compromised and flees town for good. But even in his compromised state, he leaves a token for Frodo to remember him by. Well, Gandalf the at-risk for lung cancer becomes obsessive when he sees a floating vagina towering above the land. Apparently this rickety warlock is thirsty to strum the devil's violin and runs off to uncover the secrets hidden within the vertical clam. But you see, Gandalf isn't the only one ensnared by the power of the pussy. Because we then hear the tortured cries of a rejected simp who rats out his competition to the Riders of the Storm. Afterwards, it's back to the boonies where a couple of hobbits argue over who has fewer chromosomes. When the discussion ends in a tie, Sam, a hobbit who won't wear tighty-whities because they don't hide the double chin on his balls, escorts Frodo home.
I'm sure you're right for somebody else, just not for me. Okay? Good night.
Wait, let me just touch you.
Where he finds Gandalf the disheveled in the throes of withdrawals after he failed in his pursuit of the vertical smile. Gandalf the desperate explains the torture the simp endured when his worship was denied. Then it turns out that Sam was interested in a midnight booty call and was peeping on Frodo, but his little solo pickle slap was rudely interrupted by Gandalf the cockblock, who thinks a boulder from Indiana Jones would be better off as a Sherpa. And thus begins their walkabout through the countryside, a customary ritual undertaken by the youth so they can return home to tell everyone how they were totally changed. But like most of these journeys, they only complain about the lack of creature comforts. So Gandalf the Yearning visits his old wingman in search of a way to crack this oyster. Only Saruman, not to be confused with Sauron, has low T and is attached to a ball and chain like a beta cuck.
Great, you're a soy boy beta cuck.
Then a fight ensues when Gandalf the Thirsty refuses to put the pussy up on a pedestal.
You know what your problem is? You're putting the pussy on a pedestal.
Afterwards, we see a walking cheese wheel overwhelmed by his longing desire to hold the hog a bag end when they are separated for more than 10 seconds.
Mr. Frodo? Frodo? Frodo! I thought I'd lost you.
But their magical moment is rudely interrupted by 2 hobbits with an eating disorder. As if things couldn't get any worse, the Horsemen of the Apocalypse catch up to the hobbits. These black riders' unyielding allegiance to please the Red Snapper allows them to sniff out anything belonging to the meat drapes. This failed heavy metal singer chases the hobbits across the Shire until they evade capture on the river. Once free of being told how they could probably carve their name into their arm without getting an infection, these jockeys promptly head for the nearest pub where they do what any rational person being chased by banshee edgelords would do. They get hammered. But as these little hobbits drown their sorrows in ale, Sam gets jealous when another man named Strider flashes f***me eyes at Frodo. Before a lover's quarrel can ensue, the town idiot reveals Frodo's real name, causing him to pull a vanishing act. Well, turns out his ring isn't some useless piece of metal after all. No, it turns the wearer invisible and gives them a private show of some chlamydia-riddled roast beef. But Strider isn't satisfied only flirting and brings Frodo to his room. Only Sam's murderous rage erupts at the thought of another man fondling his precious. After the mood is successfully killed, the riders of the storm arrive to release their pent-up disdain for feathered pillows. The next day, the four best friends awaken with a hangover and realizes they need to find their lost companion. Anyways, Strider explains the mad lust the Black Riders feel to return the ring to the flaming pickled cabbage. Then takes the hobbits on a long walk through the countryside to escape.
Maybe it's time we took a walk on the wild side.
Then we see the Great White Simp playing with his balls while Gandalf, the in need of rehab, sings in the rain. Strider is dirt broke, so he brings the hobbits to the cheapest roach-infested motel he can find. At the what should be condemned motel, Frodo dreams of simpler times, like when he only needed to rebuff a man who smelled of Cheeto dust and sadness. Well, skimping on a cheap motel backfires because ZZ Top arrives to steal the ring. When Frodo fails to comply, the band loses their mind and shivs Frodo.
They shake him with a shiv, then they shift him with a shake.
But Strider arrives with the newest pop album, which drives them back to the trailer park where they proclaim that noise isn't real music. Driven mad from the lack of poon, Gandalf the in need of release snaps and begins talking to moths. Not content with what the Great White Simp has to offer, the oyster demands more, so he uses 2 heaping scoops of protein and injects the mud with creatine to create the Roid Rangers. Then this White Knight destroys the neighborhood property value by blasting industrial metal 24/7. After getting shivved by ZZ Top, Frodo gets a severe contact high, only he hasn't built up years of tolerance and begins to overdose. Well, a kind elf takes pity and rushes him to the nearest emergency room. But ZZ Top recover from the music of the youth and chase the 2 of them to a river, where the she-elf blasts them with a super soaker. When Mr. Frodo wakes up, Sam is relieved he won't have to join the halfling dating site called the Hobbit Hole. Well, Mr. Selfish over here doesn't understand reciprocation and leaves Sam hanging once again with the worst case of blue balls in the history of Middle-earth. Then Frodo runs into his uncle once again, who aged like milk after being cut off from his stash. In a fever-dream withdrawals, he gives Frodo some priceless gems he scrounged out of his cupboards. Then Gandalf and a hippie that couldn't let go of the past discuss what to do with the Ring of Thoughts. Ultimately, the hippie lost his faith in making the world a better place. Apparently, he was there during the first war to end the Blue Oyster Cult.
Destroy it! No. Isildur!
Come on, man. The guy is all alone. There's no witnesses. So roundhouse kick the dude into the pit of lava and call it a day. If anyone asks, tell them he slipped. But oh no. We have to sit through 10 more hours of the Snuggle Buddies playing a game of Brokeback Mountain because Sunshine over here wouldn't finish the guy off with a flawless victory.
Finish him. Crispy.
But that's not the only romance we have to endure. Some elfling has the hots for a sulking emo king, Strider. Well, Angel Face gives Strider a pearl necklace. Then we head to the hippies' drum circle to decide the next course of action. Some believe the Ring of Thought should be used to fight back, but Gandalf reminds them that knights before tights, so the ring must be destroyed. Only the power of the pussy is strong and begins to divide the safe space, but Frodo resists its call and volunteers to bear the responsibility. And thus, the Fellowship of the Turkish Bathhouse was formed. Their collective goal is to fight their way through hordes of enemies suffering from a serious case of crotch rot, to reach the towering camel toe, then destroy the one thing that gives it power, a fancy ring costing 3 months' salary.
Ooh, divorce papers.
Then Walking Simulation, the movie, takes us on a scenic journey of mediocre proportions. After a close call when a flock of crows comes to steal breadcrumbs from the Fellowship of the Longing Gaze, they head into the mountains, only to turn around and head for the Dwarven mines. Once there, Frodo guesses the password. Open, you bunch of hairy rock-sucking Oompa Loompas. After they enter, they discover a horde of Florida men high on bath salts butchered the group of coal suckers. The Fellowship goes to leave, but some cursed octopus wants revenge for all his brothers lost in the Great Calamari Wars. With nowhere else to turn, the group is forced into the mines where the bandit brothers continue to, you guessed it, walk. Finally, they came upon the Dwarven Hall where the coal suckers made their last stand. Only Gandalf the Pasty reads from the ancient book of rap lyrics and triggers a Twitter mob out for blood. This horde descends upon them with the fury of 10,000 keyboards.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
A fight ensues, and the tease is stabbed in the chest by an angry social justice warrior, only he has on his special plot armor to protect him. The biggest twist of the movie comes when they run for 30 seconds, but this is short-lived, because the group of shit-stained Florida men high on bath salts surround them. Before the foul stench can incapacitate the Fellowship, a greater beast crawls out from the bowels of customer service hell to call the manager, the Karen. This legendary destroyer of employees chases them to a bridge designed by a high school dropout. But Gandalf the Flatulent has had enough. He stands his ground against the seething rage spewed from the sexually frustrated middle-aged cat mom. When victory seems certain, Gandalf the Toxic White Male lets his guard down, leaving an opportunity for the foaming-mouthed Karen to strike and drag him down into her pit of despair.
I'll swallow your soul!
And without time to mourn, they all begin to walk again. Shocker. But before they can get very far, they run into some sap-sucking dendrophiliacs that shove sticks so far up their own assholes they can't blink without getting a splinter. They refuse to aid the Fellowship of the Oil Wrestlers. But after promising to give them sandpaper and varnish, they agree to let them pass through their network of trees that have more holes in them than a house owned by Woody the Woodpecker. These uptight branch breeders bring them to their leader of the Pleasure Paradise. After following gender-swap Dumbledore, Harry Potter looks into a pensive to see memories and potential futures. Using the powers of a thought, the concentrated Twitch essence will enslave the masses unless Harry Potter destroys Voldemort's power source. Then Soar Whatever explains the birds and the bees to the walking protein shake, and the Roid Rangers pray to Arnold Schwarzenegger in hopes that he will one day bless them with thy holy gains. Afterwards, we catch a montage, of the Gym Bros preparing to spread the Book of Beast Mode across Middle-earth.
Hello, let us begin by introducing ourselves. I am Hans.
I'm Franz.
And we want to pump you up.
Afterwards, the Fellowship of Bad Life Choices say farewell to the Flower Fondlers, but receive gifts from the Lady Gag Reel, where she gives a couple of butter knives, a hair doll, and a bottle of vitamin water. I mean, who needs additional warriors for protection when you can get a brooch and a blanket riddled with smallpox? Tensions mount when the needy boulder pesters Frodo to hold him like he once did in the Shire, but stress has made Frodo wilt faster than whiskey. The foul mood infects the others, prompting a fight over who gets to be the top tonight. And then the movie pushes the boundaries of this walking simulation and allows us to experience the breakneck adrenaline rush of a slow meandering river. Well, Mini-Me runs into trouble when the power of the Pussy Pass taints the minds of his companions, and the horde of orcs descend upon them. So this little halfling is forced to flee when the Juiceheads try to tell him how to properly blast his quads to get swole. After their sacred gains are rejected, they roid rage and start a fight, ultimately taking down the Daywalker. In his last fleeting moments of life, the soulless Ginger pleads for forgiveness. I tried to touch his feet.
Forgive me.
Now that the biggest cock tease of Middle-earth is driven away by the Daywalker, he tries to flee by boat. But Sam is so distraught at the thought of losing the trouser hog of Big N that he nearly drowns. Only Frodo takes pity on deep-fried Rudy. The others see them run off to Vegas together and realize the Fellowship of the Slow Walkers has disbanded. The first chapter of the Middle-Age Crisis Walkabout may have ended, but this trilogy is only just getting warmed up. Stay tuned for the next episode, where Ross and Rachel continue their game of will they or won't they. One thing is certain, there will be plenty more hiking. Anyways, my feet are sore, and I'm too tired to eat you. Now scram, before I change my mind.